The Rape of the Lock, a mock heroic poem. Let's start. The epic, along with tragedy, writes Geoffrey Yellowstone, has always been considered the most serious of poetic forms, but from the earliest times it has been skirted or even intruded upon by the comic. This travesty of the epic is known as the mock heroic or mock epical poem. Here, a trivial subject is comically exalted by the epic formulas, or conversely, an exalted manner comically degraded by a trivial subject. Heroic poems like the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, and Paradise Lost deal with man in the center and in his exalted aspects. The action observes Maynard Mank is weighty, their personages are dignified, and their style is elevated. Mock heroic writing mimics this epic style, appropriates it, and applies it to situations that are not all exalted, and thus secure a ludicrous effect. Pope's The Rape of the Lock treats a trivial incident as if it had been a second Trojan War. It has taken the form of a point by point miniature version of the Iliad. Perfect in every detail, Pope applies his high style and, along with it, a complete set of epic conventions to the world of contemporary fashion. The poem was occasioned by an incident that actually occurred in Pope's circle of acquaintances. When Robert Lord Peter, the Baron, in the poem, sniffed off a lock of hair from the pretty head of Arabella Farmer, Belinda in the poem, and Pope was asked by a mutual friend of the Peter and Farmer families to toss off a jesting poem that would heal the resulting ill feeling among the families concerned. Pope did so in order that the families would see that they were making a big fuss over a trifle and would laugh away the clouds that had gathered. The Rape of the Long appeared in two cantos describing in a more heroic manner the circumstances that led to the stellification of Belinda's curl of hair and the battle which ensued. It was published in May 1712 without the name of the author. The poem was well received by the people, and Pope enlarged the poem by the addition of the machinery of the sylphs, the game of Homer, the moralizing speech of Clarissa, the description of the cave of spleen, and a few other minor details. The enlarged version was published in 1714. As to the Rape of the Lock's poetic excellences, Hazlitt observes, no pains are spared, no profusion of ornament, no splendor of poetic diction to set off the meanest thing. The balance between the concealed irony and the assumed gravity is nicely trimmed. The little is made great and the great made little. It is a triumph of insignificance, the apotheosis of foppery and folly. It is the perfection of the mock heroic. The Rape of the Lock is a most original work, but the idea of a mock heroic poem was not Pope's own. Italy, which had already produced Ariosto's burlesque romance, Orlando Furioso, was also the birthplace of the burlesque epic, a poem by Tassoni called La Sequia Rapita, the Stolen Bucket, had been widely read in Europe, and it seems to have suggested a similar work by Boileau called Les Lutrines. Boileau describes in a mock heroic manner the conflict which took place in a small country parish over the correct position in a church of the reading desk. Pope and Les Lutrines. The rape of the lock abounds in mock heroic elements. It is called a mosaic of quotations, parodies, and allusions derived from the masters of epic and narrative poetry. Homer, Virgil, and Milton peep forth at almost of epic and narrative poetry. Homer, Virgil, and Milton peep forth at almost every other line of the rape of the lock. Pope himself says, I endeavored in this poem to collect all the beauties of the great epic writers into one piece. There was Milton's style in a part, Cowley's in another. Here the style of Spenser imitated, and this of Statins. Here Homer and Virgil, and there Ovid and Claudian. First, the very title. The very title of the poem is resonant of the mock heroic tone. Pope's subject here is not romantic love, but rather sexuality and its social expression. The word rape usually means the violation of the chastity of women. Its use in the context of such a trivial incident as the snipping of a lock of Belinda's hairs is an anticlimax. The application of the strong word like rape to an insignificant event of the snipping of a lock of Belinda's hair is to provoke laugh and heighten the mock heroical tone of the poem. The title, with its built in reminiscences of heroic events like the rape of Lucre by Tarquin and the abduction of Helen of Sparta by the Trojan prince Paris, conveys to us immediately that Pope is writing in the mock heroic mode. Second, in the manner of the epic, the poem begins with the proposition announcing the theme, what dire offence from amorous causes spring, what mighty contest rise from trivial things. Third, Pope opens the rape of the lock in the epic manner with an invocation to the muse. Say, what strange motive, goddess, could compel to help the poet in saying what he has got to say. Milton, in his Paradise Lost, Book 1, writes, say first what cause moved our first parents. Fourth, the structure and form of the rape of the lock is epical. The poem is divided into cantos like an epic. The poem consists of 5 cantos. 5. The Sun. Sol sent up a gentle rap of light through the wide curtains of the bed of Belinda. It seemed as if the sun were afraid of sending the timorous ray to wake her from noonday siesta. The luster of her bright eyes makes even the bright daylight pale. Sol through white curtains shot a timorous ray, and opened those eyes that must eclipse the day. Such highly exaggerated language is a device of mock heroic poems. The comparison of the luster of her eyes to sun in lines 162 to 163. Bright as the sun, her eyes the gazers strike, and like the sun, they shine on all alike, is a wild exaggeration. 6. The number 1003 and 9 were often used in epic description for their magical association and to lend dignity to the actions described. On waking up, Belinda rang the handbell thrice, thrice rung the bell. The idea of the anticipated victory at the game of Omar filled her heart with joy. At once, the three squadrons began to fight. Each had consisted of 9, the sacred number of the Muses. Straight the three bands prepare in arms to join, each band the number of the sacred 9. Book 3, 319 to 320. As Belinda bent her head over the cup of coffee to have a sip, at once 1,000 spirits ran to protect her lock. As over the fragrant steams she bends her head, swift to the lock 1,000 sprites. Here it will spirit, swift to the lock 1,000 spirit repair. 7. Canto 3 of The Rape of the Lock begins with a description of Hampton Court, which is a hub of the climactic action in the poem. The description of a great building is in conformity with the epic style. Near those green meadows on which flowers blossom all the year round and and on which many high towers rise on the bank of the Thames, there stands a grand and a magnificent building which is known as Hampton Court. Here in the palace, Britain's statesmen assemble, the great Queen Anne hold meetings and tea party. Sometimes the description of Hampton Court is as follows. Close by those maids forever crowned with flowers, where Thames with pride surveys his rising towers. There stands a structure of majestic frame, which from the neighboring Hampton takes its name. Here Britain's statesmen of the fall fordom of foreign tyrants and of names at home. Here though great Anna, whom 3 realms away, those sometimes counsel take and sometimes steal. The description of Hampton Court reminds one of description of Pandominium. Pandominium. Pandom. What is the pronunciation of it? Pandemonium. Sorry for this. The description of Hampton Court reminds one of description of Pandemonium in Milton's Paradise Lost, Book 1. It was high capital of Saturn and his peers. Peers means ally. Pandemonium, which looked like a temple, was embellished with Doric pillars, golden cornice, and a roof of fretted gold. It shot out of the ground to the accompaniment of sweet music. It was provided with brass doors and a smooth and level floor, many rooms of star-like lamps and flaming cressets burned with naphtha, and asphalt hung from the vault of the roof by invisible links. The supernatural presiding over the Beaumonde of the rape of the lock correspond to the deities of mythology who controlled the course of events in the great Greek and Roman epics. However, Pope's deities are of diminutive size, diminutive, very little, and of non divine status. Inhabit elements of fire, salamanders, water, nymphs, earth, gnomes, and air sylphs. This invisible creature, who constitute the epic machinery of the poem, interfere not in weighty matters of state but in the social milieu of 18th century parties and drawing rooms. For example, Ariel, the sylph, is Belinda's good genius, protecting her from harm. Pope calls this machinery the light militia, which is more appropriate to a mock heroic poem than to an epic. 9. The gods in epic poetry sit according to their ranks. This is parodied by the sylphs in The Rape of the Lock. As soon as Belinda spreads out the cards in her hand, the spirits come down and sit on each important card. First of all, Ariel sits on a principal card, then other sylphs come perch on other cards according to their own rank. First, Ariel perched upon a matador, then each according to the rank they bore. 10. The action of the poem, however, has a mainly satiric thrust, constituting an ironic contrast to the vast arena of epic poetry. The parallels to great events again contribute to the mock heroic tone of The Rape of the Lock. The trivial social world of the poem is pitted against the towering backdrop of epic allusions. Thus, the plot includes all the conventional features of the epic: the omen or portent, Ariel's oracular pronouncements in Canto 1, the arming for battle, Belinda's ritual toilet and the Baron's sacrifice on the altar, the preliminary battle, the skirmish at cards, etc. 11. In spite of all efforts to conceal her secret, Ariel saw all of a sudden, to his great wonder and confusion, that Belinda secretly cherished in her heart a human lover. Ariel found that all his power to take care of her had gone, and this led him to withdraw his protection for Belinda and left her to her fate. Amazed, confused, he found his power expired, resigned to fate, and with a sigh retired. In the epic, guardian deities to withdraw their help at crucial moments. In Homer's Iliad, before Achilles can exchange a spear thrust, Apollo hides Hector in a mist, but as Achilles comes up to him, Hector begins to run away. At the fourth time round, Zeus weighs in his scales the destinies of the two men. It is the scales which show Hector's death day, and Apollo, who has been giving him his strength, leaves him up to his fate and has withdrawn. The description of the coffee ritual in third canto of the Rape of the Lock, line 105 to 110, is a delightful diminution of the epic feast. The, the description is as follows: For lo, the board, cups, and spoons is crowned, the berries crackle, and the mill turns round. From silver spouts the grateful liquors glide, liquor means wine, while China's earth receives the smoking tide. This coffee ritual parodies the fabulous meals in the epic. Instead of the epic meals, the beef steak in Homer, the loads of sausages in Tassoni, the piled refectory fare in Beaulieu there is in Pope, says Tillotson, the lacquer and silver ceremonial of coffee. The arming of an epic hero prior to joining the battle is an epic convention. The toilet was performed with jewels, cosmetics, paints, perfumery powder, puffs, patches. Belinda's person shone forth in all its beauty. The description of her dawning beauty aids as is follows: This casket India's glowing gems unlocks, and all Arabia breathes from yonder box. The tortoise hair and elephant unit transformed to combs, the speckled and the white. Here files of paints extend their shining rows, puffs, powders, patches. The description of a woman putting on makeup in terms of marital idiom is soaked in mock heroic atmosphere. The elaborate process of Belinda's toilet reminds one of Achilles arming himself for a duel with Hector in Homer's Iliad. In the middle of all this, godlike Achilles, armed for battle, first he placed his fine leg guards on his shins, fitted with silver ankle clips. Then he put on his body armor and slung his bronze silver riveted sword over his shoulder. Then he took up the great heavy shield. Next he picked up his massive helmet and placed it on his head. It sparkled like a star. The Iliad, Book 9, Book BK, Book 19, Penguin Books editor Peter Jones. 14. Warnings are an epic commonplace in Canto 1. Canto 1 of The Rape of the Lock. Belinda was under the care and protection of Ariel. He prophesies that some great misfortune will befall Belinda during the course of the day, but he does not know the exact nature or source of the mischief. But heaven reveals not what or how or where. In lines 391 to 4, Canto 3, Pope again indulges in a moral reflection on man's lack of insight, after the manner of the ancient epic masters. When Belinda goes into wild ecstasies after winning in the game of Homer, oh, thoughtless mortals, ever blind to fate, too soon dejected and too soon elate. Sudden this honor shall be snatched away, and cursed for ever this victorious day. In line 411 to 414, Pope again resorts to the epic manner of giving a warning or a moral counsel to a hero who is going to do something rash and preposterous sees rash youth, disaster, it's too late. Fear the just gods and think of Skyla's fate. From the above discussion, we may conclude that Pope follows almost all the tenets of epic poetry except the dignity of subject. The whole poem seems to be a flirtation with the sublime and is really a triumph of the ridiculous. Here, the little is made great and the great little. The line is very important. Remember this and note this. The little is made great and the great little. From this line, sometimes or very often, we see that university makes this line very important, and they question by this line. Here the sense and the nonsense, signifier and insignifier, the serious and the levity cohere and commingle. Okay, that's it.